Imagine landing your childhood dream job and realizing it's slowly destroying you. That's exactly what happened to Ali Machate, and it's a warning every creative needs to hear. Most creatives never get this close to the thing they dreamed about. As a kid, the cruel twist is sometimes achieving the dream is the moment it starts to crack.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of luck and timing and a lot of preparation. Having a resume that was very clearly angled towards writing and reading and book publishing, I was able to demonstrate that I have had this lifelong passion, which I think spoke a lot for me. I also did a lot of the things that, they tell you to do in school, right? So I was editor of the school paper and I was on the Lit Mag editorial board. When I was in college, I started freelancing for pay. It was my first writing job. I started freelancing for a bunch of websites and writing copy for them for a paycheck, and worked for a small regional publisher as an intern. So I was able to get some real hands-on experience there. So I think all of that really contributed to it. But I'll tell you the truth, I remember still sending in my resume one day. And I remember thinking, because everyone had already warned us, right? Don't expect to necessarily get a job right out of school. It might take a little time. It's not a big deal. And so I fully expected that that would be the case, especially for a job in publishing, right? Like every English major wants to work in book publishing. The competition is really fierce. And so I sent off my resume and I applied for the job. And I fully expected that I would, go home for the summer and do my post-college thing and hang out and enjoy life a little. And instead, I got an email back almost instantly asking me what I could come in for an interview. And it turned out that it was just a really remarkable moment. The HR woman who was responsible for filling that position happened to be at her desk the moment that I sent my resume and material in, because she replied immediately. And it was also a position where they were really desperately in need.
We love to romanticize these moments, the email that changes everything, but nobody talks about what happens after the door opens. Sometimes the dream job is just the beginning of the pressure.
Yeah, so I did work at Simon Schuster for a number of years. I learned a ton about the book publishing industry, about what really makes a book marketable and commercially viable, how it takes so much more than just a good book. A good book is really the start, not the end all be all. There's a lot of different things publishers look for beyond the book itself. And I had some really incredible mentors. I was very, very lucky in all aspects, honestly. And what happened was, it was an odd time in New York. We went through the dot-com bust, and then we went through 9/11. And like many industries in New York City at the time, the publishing industry went through some shrinkage. So we went through a couple of years of layoffs where the departments got smaller and smaller, and I survived the layoffs.
This is the part that every creative fears. You finally get in the room, and the room starts collapsing.
But those of us who were left behind were almost in a more difficult position because, of course, they still wanted to publish the same number of books. We were very large corporate publishing at the time. We were owned by Viacom, and they still had bottom lines that they wanted to meet, and they still had a number of books they wanted to publish, but we were down to about a third of the staff. And so I found myself in a really difficult situation where it was just a lot of work. And
this is the hidden cost of it. You think you're climbing the ladder, but the ladder is missing rungs, and you're expected to climb anyways.
Because of the layoffs, the upward mobility, if you will, of the industry had really taken a hit. There wasn't a lot of places for junior editors to move up into. So all of those things combined.
Creative industries love to sell the fantasy of meritocracy, but sometimes the system is so broken that hard work isn't a ladder, it's a treadmill.
And the kicker was that I was really close to finishing a master's degree. I had been going part-time for a number of years, and I was super close. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to quit.
This is the moment creatives never prepare for. Realizing the dream version of your career and the lived version are two different worlds.
I'm going to go full-time and finish up my degree. I'll do a little freelancing on the side, and maybe in about a year when I'm done, the industry will have settled. There'll be jobs opening up again. Things will sort of get a little bit more back to normal after all of these tragedies and financial upheaval. And I never went back because I loved freelancing so much.
And here's the twist. Walking away didn't mean failure, it meant freedom. Sometimes the bravest creative decision is letting go of the thing you thought you always wanted. Because you've been around the block here. You've had
Yeah.
you've had the dream, you've gone to the big publishers, you've gone the independent route. I know that you're working on some of your own writings at the same time, but what is it that if you could tell your kids someday or your grandkids someday something, a highlight of your journey, what would that be?
I think it would be something around one of my favorite quotes, which I have here on my computer screen on a sticky note. And it's that you can do anything, but not everything. And I think that that comes into play. It's a lesson I've certainly learned about marketing, right? We've been talking about it. You don't market your book to everybody. You figure out who the target audience is, right?
Yeah.
When you're writing a story, you don't write a book that's all kinds of books. You figure out what category the book belongs in, right? Like what's really the niche? What's the really specific group of people who want to read that book? So your opportunities are endless, but if you really want to make an impact and you really want to connect with people, almost in any aspect, but certainly when it comes to writing, you have to narrow things down and stop making it about everybody and everything.
Stability doesn't come from the dream job, it comes from leverage, from building something that can't be taken away by layoffs, mergers, or corporate panic. The dream wasn't wrong, the container was, and that's a truth every creative eventually runs into. Folks, this was just a small part of this interview. If you want to catch the whole thing, head on over to the Light Minded Arts podcast and find the whole interview there. I'll see you next time.